Hi, my name is Attorney Walter, if not the third, and I'm with Disability Resolution PA. Let's get right to this. What does President Biden want to do with Social Security disability benefits in the form of SSDI, SSI, AUX benefits, disabled adult child benefits, things like that? Let's go right into it. This is straight from his website for him becoming the president, so let's read what he wants to do. And this is from the Biden Plan for Full Participation and Equality for People with Disabilities. Specifically, let's go over to section, it's about 28 in, protect and strengthen economic security for people with disabilities, somewhere around there. So if you want to use the finder function. Now, where it really gets good, where you get through the fluff, would be what I look at as 28.1. It's not actually numbered. I wish it was. Increase the benefit level for people receiving SSI. Biden will set a federal benefit rate of at least 100% of the poverty level. Now, this is good. This is actually an important thing because a lot of people who are receiving SSI, there's two things that's happening. A, they don't get enough money per month, and B, they're using the one-third reduction rule to take off around $300, sometimes a little less, sometimes a little bit more, from their benefits. And what that means is that somebody who should be getting around $800 is now only getting around $500 because somebody was assisting them, giving them a place to live, giving them $100 a month, whatever. Somebody was assisting them, and then they are able to reduce their SSI benefits even more if that person that was assisting them doesn't sign a 795 stating that they're no longer going to assist them and going through all the loops and hoops that they need to go ahead and receive their full SSI check. Now, let's say they even get their full SSI check, right? Let's say they're getting the 783 2020 and a little bump up on 2021. Let's say that they're going to go ahead, right, and get the full amount. If you're making under $800 a month, it's pretty tricky to find a place to rent, to live, and then have any additional resources beyond that. Most places in Florida, you're looking at for a single trailer kind of gig, you're looking at like $700 for a single trailer, right? So if you're in a trailer park, $700 single trailer. Now, with that said, you can get deals for around $500. But even so, with all those options, that's still not a good deal. So the bottom line is he's going to go ahead and raise that so they have just a bit more to be able to afford rent and some of the other options. And what has happened here with the whole SSI situation is that it has bred opportunity for private industry, which is not a bad thing, to go ahead and buy out hotels and motels that were falling into disrepair, set up the rooms so that they could be rented by the disabled people with SSI, and then take a percentage of their, it's usually a third or two-thirds, what the benefits are, to be able to go ahead and stay in one of those rooms. And what's the beautiful thing about that is that it allows basically that unit of all those motel rooms or hotel rooms to have a case manager, not just a manager, a case manager who will work with those disabled people to go ahead and essentially make sure they're taking their medications, going through their appointments, all kinds of stuff. Somebody to help them out beyond that. So that's something that came from the lower amount, but it would be better if they could get a little bit more because it is too expensive, unfortunately, in America. And I've watched the COLA adjustments, cost of living adjustments, and they're just not enough to go ahead and keep SSI claimants out of some difficult situations. And what I see a lot are these SSI claimants getting the check, moving out of the woods into one of these apartments, and then they're stealing still from the stores because they're not getting enough to go ahead and take care of the things that they need to do. So let's go on to the next one. 28.2, which is what I'm calling it. You can call it whatever you want. But eliminate the 5-month waiting period for SSDI and 2-year waiting period for Medicare. This is spot on. I don't care whether you like Biden or you hate Biden, but this is a good point. Eliminate the 5-month waiting period for SSDI. SSDI, Social Security Disability Insurance, Title II, right? Very straightforward program. You got to be severely impaired. You got to be insured, right? You got enough quarters of coverage because you're insured. Your impairment is severe enough, meaning it's not trace, mild, moderate. It is severe or extreme. Anything above that point. Let's talk about that. With SSDI, when you go to calculate benefits, right? So you have you filing, you being found disabled, and then basically life is good. You get a check every month, yada, yada, yada. But from when you filed and when you're found disabled, that's called your back pay, right? You don't count for SSDI benefits the first 5 months of back pay, right? Because the SSA put those aside for taking time for them to be able to pull your IRS job information. So they're pulling your detailed earnings query, your summary earnings query, your certified earnings query, your new hire query, all of those things. And there's actually another one. But the bottom line is they're pulling those. Here's the kicker. That was back in the day when they made that rule, where essentially the rule was created with the purpose of giving the IRS more time to be able to do these things. Now they're automated. I mean, the whole thing's just real quick calculate. That was a weird noise, but real quick calculations, and poof, it sends it out. It's all templatized. It doesn't take them nearly as much time to be able to do it 5 months as it used to. Now, just to give you a backdrop, SSI, you don't count the first month of the last month. SSDI, you don't count the first 5 months of the last month. So for SSDI benefits, when you're looking at back pay, you don't count 6 months. For SSI, you only don't count 2 months. Now, just so you understand how SSDI works, a little bit more information about it. SSDI works this way. Before you file, you can ask for up to 17 months going back in time from that date when you filed to when you're found disabled. Or from that date when you filed, we can change that or say the alleged onset date, being the date that you're claiming, essentially, that you were going to be found disabled. All right? No, that's wrong. Sorry. Take out that part. We're going to go back to eliminating the 5-month waiting period. Okay, guys, now we're going to be looking at what's called eliminating the 5-month waiting period. I'm calling it 28-2, but this is a really, really good one. Some of you guys hate Biden, some of you guys love Biden, but here's the bottom line. Here's a really good one. Okay, guys, let's go into 28-2. I just had to put the dog away because she was kind of barking and things like that. But let's go into 28-2. This is eliminate the 5-month waiting period for SSDI and 2-year waiting period for Medicare. Let's talk about it. This is actually one of the best things they could potentially do with Social Security disability benefits, specifically for SSDI. Here's why. And I know some of you guys like Biden, some of you guys hate Biden. I get it. But this is actually a really good thing for everybody when it comes to disability benefits. Eliminate the 5-month waiting period for SSDI. All right, so here's how it works. Social Security disability insurance, right? Not SSI, Social Security disability insurance, SSDI, the Quarters of Coverage Insurance Program for disability benefits. All right, you file. You're found disabled. Retroactive benefits before you file. Back pay benefits from when you filed to when you're found disabled. Forward pay benefits. You get a check every month. You're found disabled. Retroactive, back pay, forward pay. Let's talk about this. All right, so what are we looking at here? What we're looking at here is that when you file for Social Security disability insurance, the first 5 months that you're waiting, you don't get to collect any back pay from those months. You don't. And the month you're found disabled, you don't get to collect that as well. Now for SSI, the first month in which you file and the month in which you're found disabled, those 2 months don't count. So what's the difference between SSI, there's a bug, between SSI and SSDI? SSI is a program that basically does not have to look at your work history when it comes to doing an analysis for quarters of coverage. SSDI has to look at your work history to assess how many quarters of coverage you actually have earned. Okay? If you want to learn about quarters of coverage, watch a different video. But the bottom line is this. Let's assume you've got enough quarters of coverage for SSDI benefits. They put this waiting period into the system for SSDI benefits. You file, you wait 5 months. These don't count for back pay benefits. And then each month thereafter that you wait, you're collecting in a little side jar money that you potentially get if you're found disabled. But those first 5 months don't count. What Biden is saying here is he's getting rid of that waiting period. That 5-month waiting period, he's getting rid of it. He'll probably either transition it into what SSI has, which is essentially 1 month, the first month doesn't count, and the final month where you're found disabled doesn't count, or he'll get rid of that in total. The first month that you file and the last month that you're found disabled won't count, or he'll do some variation of that. First month will count, and then when you're found disabled, that won't count on that final date, or he'll switch it around. It'll be one of those. But the bottom line is this. Why did they have that 5-month waiting period to begin with, right? Well, what was the purpose of that? The purpose of it was really simple. I remember reading this about 12, 13 years ago thinking, it's kind of a weird reason. But back then it made sense. Back then they needed time to go through your work history, check with the IRS, see what they have, go through your detailed earnings query, your summary earnings query, your certified earnings query, your new hire query, all those little things to go through them and figure out how many quarters of coverage you actually had. But nowadays, with technology being what it is, 2021, what it is that it's very hyper automated. It's all templatized. So the IRS is able to send that information over very quickly. So the original system of waiting 5 months to go ahead and get this information from the IRS, it doesn't take 5 months anymore. So why did they keep the rule? Well, it saves them a lot of money. They don't have to pay the back pay to the claimant for those 5 months that originally come through. So that's 5 months worth of potential SSDI benefits that you were losing out on. He's going to hopefully get rid of that, and that'll help these people who are disabled pay off their credit cards, pay off their bills, pay back medical, get on track with their life. And that's what we want. We want disabled people who can't work to be able to afford a basic lifestyle that, you know, keeps them going, doesn't put them in a position where they have to steal things, and essentially can hopefully one day, you know, add more to society. That's what we want, right? We don't want to essentially, what is with that bug? We don't want to essentially create a situation where we're paying them so little that they can't do anything. And here's the important part that I just want to point out quickly when it comes to Social Security disability benefits. Social Security disability benefits are different than something like universal basic income. Universal basic income is essentially the requirement that you as a United States citizen will automatically, as a United States citizen, get, you know, a check per month to keep you, you know, out of poverty or to keep you above a certain point, right? And the bottom line with that is, okay, I get that. I understand that that's where people are going politically with a lot of things. But the big difference between that and disability benefits is that if a person is severely impaired, they can't work enough to support themselves. And because they can't work enough to support themselves, the government steps in and begins giving them payments because they can't work. Here's how it works. There's 5 elements of disability, or at least disability law, as you want to put it. Element 1, SGA. You can't basically earn over SGA, which is right around $1,300 for 2021. So think $1,300. If I earn over that, then basically I'm no longer eligible for that month of disability or eligible at all. Element 2, your disability has to be severe, which they pretty much have figured out as they want to apply it, because remember, every time we come out with the law, there's what it is and then how we use it. What they say is, look, has your impairment lasted 12 months? Will it last 12 months? Will it be terminal? They're looking at a 12-month figure. Has that impairment lasted 12 months? Then we go to element 3. We're looking at, okay, is this a mild? Is this a trace, mild, moderate, severe, extreme impairment? What they're looking for is severe and up, severe and extreme impairment. And what that means is that they have this giant list. We call this the listing element. Imagine a giant list from the ceiling all the way to the ground of predefined impairments, predefined disabilities. And then what they do is they look at that and they say, okay, do you meet, equal, or exceed one of these predefined disabilities? And the bottom line is this. They look at it and they go, okay, are you as bad as one of those? Are you worse than one of those? Or are you equivalent to one of those, right? Do you have medical equivalency to one of those? Which is what the Supreme Court came out with as their language. But the bottom line is this. Those are really, really severe. And if you want to catch up with me in a future video, essentially, you know, what does each one require? I'm making that set right now so you guys have a better understanding of it. But the bottom line is they're really, really severe. Most people that I run across are not falling into the listing category. So what do? So we have element 1, SGA, element 2, 12 months for severity, element 3, the listings. If they don't meet, equal, or exceed a listing, then at that point, what happens is we do what's called an RFC analysis, a residual functional capacity analysis. Now, what is that? An RFC analysis is where we look at the ings, the walking, standing, pushing, pulling, crouching. You know, how's the remembering, focusing? Can they finish what they start? Then we go through the mental aspect of that as well. And if you look at these RFC charts, like if you type into Google, hey, you know, residual functional capacity chart, you can see specifically what things they're looking at that you could do. The easiest way to think about it is to look at sports, right? So if you have a sports person, and boy, oh boy, you know, they can run this far, they can jump this high, they can do this, they're measuring what the person can potentially do. That's what the RFC analysis is. They're measuring how long you can stand, how far you can walk, stuff like that. They're measuring what you could do in a vocational setting, right? And that's important because then we go to element 4. Element 4 is, can you do your past relevant work? Can you do the work that which you did within the past 15 years, so 2006 forward, because it's 2021. And what we're looking at there is essentially, can you do those jobs? And we're looking, okay, were they skilled jobs? Were they semi-skilled jobs? Were they unskilled jobs? We're looking at those sorts of things. Now, if you can't do your past relevant work based upon the testimony of a vocational expert or the adjudicator, then at that point we transition to element 5, the cleaver. Element 5 is, very simply put, can you do other jobs in the national economy? And we call it RTSW, relevant, transferable, skilled work. That's where they're taking skills from the jobs you used to work at and seeing, are they transferable? That's where they're looking to see, okay, can you do skilled jobs, semi-skilled jobs, unskilled jobs? You know, if you were a doctor, could you do, you know, physician's assistant? Could you be a nurse practitioner? You know, obviously some of they require particular licenses, but think of it as that kind of, going from each thing to each thing. You break it down in your head to saying, okay, if it couldn't do this, could it do this? And then ultimately we get to the very bottom of the barrel. I don't mean it in that way, in a negative way, but I mean literally in the DOT, the SVP1s. Trust me, I've worked a lot of those jobs. But the bottom line is this: those SVP1s, SVP2s are unskilled jobs. And those unskilled jobs, we're looking to see, can they do a full-time unskilled job? And this is why it's the cleaver element. If they could do a full-time unskilled job in any state in the nation based upon how many of those jobs are available in the national economy, that's all the states, then they're not found disabled. That's the cleaver. That's why Social Security disability benefits are so difficult to get onto. And keep this in mind. You'll see a bunch of those attorney advertisements, which I don't make those, as you guys know by now if you know me. They'll say, 25% of the American people are disabled. Yeah, but a much smaller percent for SSI and SSDI. It's like 5 to 6% of the population. That's because they're required to have a severe disability as opposed to any disability, any disabling conditions equating to 25% of the populace being disabled. So that's a little bit of, and I hate those attorney advertisements that I see all the time because they're just icky, It's terrible. I'm honorable and wonderful and great, and you should like me because I'm going to give you myself. I just hate them. I've always hated them. I'm always going to hate them. And in Florida, it's 24/7, all the time. Some attorneys own a bunch of the law firms, so they buy out the entire advertisement block, and they'll just do, this one. You'll notice, okay, these are all attorney advertisements. One's for Christians, one's for trials, one's for sheriffs, one's for police. That's how they do it. Anyways, we're going to move on to the next part here, which is the 2-year waiting period for Medicare. So the idea is this: for SSDI benefits, 24 months after basically what's established as your alleged onset date, that is the date that which you are alleging you are disabled, severely disabled from. So let's say, okay, boom, we set the date, that's our AOD. 24 months from that date that we are claiming we became severely disabled under the SSA's rules and regulations, 24 months after that, okay, if you're found disabled 24 months from that alleged onset date, you can get Medicare. Now, this used to not be a big deal because, let's call it like it is, claims would take 3 years to be able to get in front of a judge, right? They might take 4 years. But now I've got claims that are 12 months, 15 months, 24 months. They're in front of that judge. They're zip, 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 boom, right there. Then they get found disabled. But then they don't have a health insurance option, right? Because let's say they were found disabled 15 months after, after their alleged onset date, right? They've still got a chunk of months to wait until they get to 24 months, which means they got to buy, with their benefits and their back pay, private health insurance, or go in and get one of those, marketplace insurance plans and things like that. Is that what we want for disabled people? No. We want them to be able to be on Medicare. SSDI equates to Medicare, SSI equates to Medicare. We want them to be able to have their health insurance. So he's talking about getting rid of that 2-year waiting period for Medicare, which is a great idea. We should do that. There's no point in having it. And I understand some of the other options that, making them wait. I get that, but realistically, guys, let's say, all right, let me give you another example. Let's say 5 months in. 5 months in, they're found disabled, right? They're setting everything up the next month to get them the check. They're setting everything up the next month so that the person can basically go ahead and figure out what they're going to do for their insurance. Wouldn't it make more sense that they would just go on Medicare at that point? I mean, wouldn't it? They're disabled. They're severely impaired. Wouldn't it just make more sense? To me, it just makes more sense to put that. And I get they want to save money here. They want to save money. And I get that. I understand that. But I feel like if somebody's found disabled under that really difficult severity standard, I personally feel that they should have insurance at that point. I know a lot of people are arguing that everybody should have health insurance, yada, yada, yada. I get that. As part of the whole universal basic income argument. I get that. But when somebody's found severely disabled, I think that they should have health insurance. I do. All right, which is a step down from the whole universal basic income, the UBI situation. 28.3, eliminate the benefit cliff for SSDI. All right, let's go into that. Earnings limits under SSDI can discourage people with disabilities from engaging in employment or internship opportunities when they depend on SSDI funds. Biden will increase this limit and phase out this benefit gradually so people with disabilities don't have to choose between employment and healthcare. That's such a good idea, honestly, and here's why. SGA, Substantial Gainful Activity, is $1,310 for 2021, okay? And if they earn above that, while trying to figure out what they want to do with work or do this or do that, then they're not eligible for disability benefits anymore. Now, they do have programs for that. They have a trial work period. They have a ticket to work program. Trial work periods where you get months to try working. You get to keep the money from working and basically, essentially go ahead and keep your disability benefit. Ticket to work program is where you have a contract, usually for 5 years. You get to go ahead and keep the money that you're working, and the disability benefits. But after that, they're kicking you off of the disability train. They have programs for this, but it does make sense. How many people do you guys know that are only working part-time so they can keep their benefits? How many people do you guys know where, they got to work this angle or work this angle? Is it not, and I don't want to get political here with the whole thing, but is it not important to you that people should be promoted or pushed towards the opportunity of going back to work? There's a lot of disabled people out there. A lot of them have depression. A lot of them have, that withdrawal syndrome from society. Wouldn't it be better to give them purpose? A lot of them don't, and I agree. Some of them want to sit there and play video games all day. I get that. Don't get me wrong. But a lot of them want purpose. A lot of them had a lot taken from them. They were working a job. They were working a pipeline job. They were working at this job. They were working at that job. They were working a job. They got injured when the machine fell over. They got injured because a car collided. A lot of them lose everything. And a lot of people tie specifically to their job, to their work, to their vocation that they've had, whether it's a career or 1 year or whatever. A lot of people tie an emotional connection to that as to self-worth. We need to rebuild how people can enter into the work environment while still receiving Social Security disability benefits, because the idea is to promote the country's intent to get people who are receiving disability benefits back into working as much as they can. Is it not the idea of America to get as much work product out of its people? That's how society works, is it not? Society wants as much work product out of the people that it can get. Why? Because that builds society. It builds value, right? So then why don't we want every opportunity presented to these people to get out there, work, make something, create something, give a service? Why don't we want that to be at the forefront? So, I don't know if you like Biden. I don't know if you hate Biden. Biden's doing some stuff I disagree with, and he's only been in for a very short time. Biden's doing some stuff like this I'm very much for. Let's go on to the next one. 28.4. Reform the SSI program so that it doesn't limit beneficiaries' freedom to marry, save, or live where they choose. Okay. This is really... I don't know why we haven't done this yet. Like, a lot of this stuff I read through and I'm just like, why didn't we fix it? And these are things, you've seen many of my videos and I was bitching about them and complaining about them, but I didn't have enough time to fix them. I just didn't. But here's the kicker. He's actually going to go ahead and let's go through the first one. Biden will work with Congress and the disability community to eliminate the SSI marriage penalty and in-kind support and maintenance provisions and raise the asset limit associated with basically, they haven't increased what you can have in assets, sitting in the bank since 1984. Let's talk about that real quick. Did you know that when two poor people who are disabled meet and they fall in love and they get married, the government screws them over? And here's how. They significantly reduce both of the amount of their SSI check. Why? Well, I don't know. Nobody really knows. Maybe the idea, and I've seen things posted on this. I think they're all stupid. Maybe the idea, you're going to like this, maybe the idea is that, rent's cheaper because now you got two people sharing one place, sharing the food, yada, 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 right? But is that how it works? No, when you have two people, realistic, when you have a whole family, yeah, you can save money. If you got, 5 people, you got 2 kids even, you can save money with that kid. But, because the government's giving you, a handout at tax time left and right. But when you have 2 disabled people on SSI, they significantly reduce both of their benefits. So let's work this out. SSI person 1 cannot afford most trailers that are out there in trailer parks. So let's say they get a miniature studio apartment. Now you're bringing in the next person. The next person wants a little more room, right? So now maybe they can get a 1-bedroom, right? Well, they could if they both got the same amount they were getting before, but when they get married, they reduce their benefits. which makes no sense. So now they can't afford, you guessed it, that 1 bedroom, because that's a big jump up in price. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't make any sense. And I get the whole, well, they're combining, their assets, and they don't have to spend twice as much for their phone service and their internet service. I get that. Guys, look at the amount that they're reducing their benefits by. That is not a small amount. It's not ethical. It's not ethical. Is it not the idea to promote in America for people to get married? To have a long-lasting marriage. They love each other, right? People that are in marriages, they tend to want to go ahead and live in the country and be happy in the country, and they tend to support things in the country. They tend to be a part of the community. Is it not in America the idea that they want people to get married? If they didn't, they wouldn't hand out permits to go ahead and do the marriage at that church and this thing and that, government grant. They wouldn't hand out those permits if they didn't want people to get. They wouldn't have. Look, you guys know this. America wants people to get married. They want people to be happy. All right, now we're getting to the next thing. Reform the SSI program so that it doesn't limit beneficiary freedom to marry and save. Okay, I don't know if you guys know this, but SSI people can't have more than $2,000 in the bank, right? Because you got income, and you got resources. If the resources go above $2,000, you're not eligible for SSI benefits anymore because you are no longer an impoverished person. So then they came out with this thing called the ABLE accounts, right? The ABLE accounts. Actually, the next thing is about the ABLE accounts, so I'll go through that in the next thing. But the bottom line is, it is moronic if a person wants to save, right? If an SSI person wants to save money, they got to hide a part of it under their mattress because they can't allow it to be seen in a bank account. It's just, it doesn't, come on, guys. And then think about that, $2,000? $2,000 in the bank account. That's nothing. That's nothing. That's not enough money for things. It's nothing. You have to raise that way up high. You just have to. All right, next thing. Or live where they choose. Yeah, there's a lot of things that restrict people. Increasing the amount that they'll be able to get. Having new rules as to who can rent to them. And, what restrictions they can put on those people. All very, very important. I'm losing my voice, so I'm going to start going through this a little bit more quickly. 28.5. And I don't know if it's 28. It could be 29 or 27. I read this in the middle of the night the other night. And it's 2 a.m. here right now. But as you know, I run a law firm during the day. Spend a little bit of time with my dogs. And then I basically make videos for you guys to learn. 28.5. So in this case, expand access to tax advantage savings accounts, ABLE accounts, which provide people with disabilities a way to pay for qualified disability-related expenses, such as education. He's just copying it straight from the statute that it already is, such as education, housing, and transportation. Biden will work to pass the ABLE Age Adjustment Act. Okay, flipping the page, which will make ABLE accounts available to 6 million additional adults with disabilities, including 1 million veterans. So what he's getting at here is this. ABLE accounts. ABLE accounts are basically savings accounts for disabled people that people can put money into. It cannot exceed $15,000, and you have to be disabled before the age of 26. So you can either be claiming it right before 26 or prove that your alleged onset date for disability when you became severely disabled is before the age of 26. There's a lot of dumb things with an ABLE account that make no sense. The age requirement, in my opinion, should be gotten rid of. It's just, there's a lot of things. I mean, people aren't only getting educated at a young age anymore, and you need money for education. And this whole $15,000, what is $15,000 going to do with school? I have $335,000 worth of student loans. I started out over $500,000 worth of student loans. I've been paying off those over 15 years now, and that's where I'm at right now. So let me just help you out here. $15,000 is not going to do much as a limitation that needs to be raised way up. Another thing that you got to watch out with these accounts, just so you know, is that when the person passes away, the state can file a claim to go ahead and take whatever money is in that ABLE account against what the state had to pay for Medicaid for that person. That should be a red flag. I don't know if we should have that. That's a rule I don't like either. We'll have to look at that. All right, let's go to the next thing. So yeah, basically they're making these ABLE accounts available to people who are going to be older, and then I'll go more into that act that he wants to pass, which is this whole ABLE Age Adjustment Act. That's what the whole thing is about, the whole 26-year-old yada yada. 28.6 reverse. Now normally you put like a 28B, 28C, but I was so tired when I was working on this. 28.6, Part 6. Reverse damage done to Social Security rules by the Trump. All right, so I tried to go through the fluff where he's beating on Trump because, but I'm just going to read it, and then I'll give you a little annotation on it. All right. President Trump announced that he wants to change the Social Security rules for people who get disability benefits, including SSI and SSDI. Okay, so he wants to change the rules. His proposed change will require many to re-verify their disability every 2 years, a tough enough process to get through once targeting adults with disabilities who are close to retirement, children with disabilities, and people with certain medical conditions, including cancer and behavioral disorders. If approved by, which it did go through, if approved by the Trump administration, will rescind this harmful program. All right, here's what they're saying. This is a shot at Trump. That's all that is. They have the ability, right now as it is, to go and give you a CDR, a continuing disability review. So you have your disability benefits, you are disabled. They can give you a CDR 1 year from you being found disabled, or the next year, or they can give it to you 3 years, right? 3 years from now, you're going to get a CDR. 7 years, 10 years. You know what the judges do? A lot of the judges, they just put whatever they want. They want to put 1 year, they want to put 2 years, or 3 years, 4 years. It's likely to improve within so many years. Please do yada. They put whatever they want. But here's the bottom line. They presented and pushed forward that because the statute allowed for 1 year and 3 year review, they should also have one for 2 years. Well, if you got a 1 year review option and a 2 year and a 3 year review option, the 1 year you could just double that and do it, 1 year every year. So that was just a cheap shot at Trump. There was really nothing to be gained there other than that was a fluff piece, cheap shot at Trump. The bottom line is they're already doing them potentially every year if they wanted to. Now in practice they don't, because they're not going to spend that much money per person unless something pops up where they're working and earning over a certain amount. They're red flagged for fraud against the government, things like that. All right. So that one, look, you want to do a CDR every year, you want to do a CDR every 3 years, you want to do a CDR every 10 years, they're going to do a CDR whenever they want to do anyway. So this is the bottom line. All right, 28.7. I don't know why I didn't use letters, but I was tired. Strengthen the Social Security Administration. Okay. Ensuring that Social Security benefits are easy to access and that field offices and teleservice centers are fully funded is key to our better. Oh, this is we're going to go into this one a little bit because there's a lot being said here that's not being said here. So this is all about keeping regional offices, having all these little offices all over the place. Ensuring that the Social Security benefits are easy to access and the field offices and teleservice centers are fully funded is key to our bedrock commitment to seniors and people with disabilities. Cutting Social Security services will only hurt the most vulnerable in our communities, but it will provide sufficient resources for staffing needs to meet the needs of beneficiaries today and into the future. So what he's saying is he does not want the local field offices, the local DDS offices, the local OHO offices, having administrative law judges, that you can physically go to. Obviously, COVID, you can't right now, but normally you'd go to, like OHO Orlando would be Lake Linda, the Lake Linda hearing office, that you can physically go to that. And here's what's going on with that. The SSA has always pushed towards an agenda, in my opinion, that what they would really, and they've been making huge strides toward, is they'd really like to get rid of regional hearing offices. Just get rid of them. Get rid of the Tampa one or the St. Pete one or the Orlando one. Just get rid of them. And just have one mega National Hearing Center. A video thing, right? We're zooming these all now, right? Okay. That's what they would really like to do. That's the big push in the future, because then they don't have to pay for all of these regional offices, which are very expensive. And they can just have all these judges. It used to be their idea was we're just going to have one giant mega building and that they're all going to do their thing and their hearings in this giant mega building. Now, they're not even pushing that agenda. Now the whole thing is, well, we're just going to set up the room at their house to go ahead and have, what it needs to do these hearings. That's the future of this, right? Because, Zoom is taking over. Microsoft has some options now that they're trying to go ahead and utilize. About 2 weeks ago, they're starting to push that. So the bottom line is the Social Security Administration is trying to save money, and Biden's saying, no, we want to keep these local offices because they are important for disabled people to be able to go there. And then you got to wonder, do you have a right, right? The whole space constitution idea, right? Where it's the first open source constitution. You can write in whatever rights you want. Attorneys look at it. We offer arguments to the left, arguments to the right, all that stuff. But do you have a right to be present in front of a judge physically? Or do you just have a right to be present in front of a judge through video? Right? Then you got to look at that. Well, what's the rule right now? What's the rule going to be? How's the rule going to change? Should they have the right to be present in front of this person? Biden's saying yes. I have arguments for that and against that. But where they're going with the Social Security Administration as it is right now, and they have been for the past 15 years, in my opinion, maybe even longer. Because remember, I've worked for the law firms going 15 years back with this stuff, and now my law firm 8 years. But the bottom line here is this, guys. They're trying to cut funds. They're trying to make it cheaper. So they're trying to push this whole National Hearing Center thing. They're trying to get rid of these regional offices. That's what a lot of these administrative law judges are not willing to do, what we call OTRs, which is on the record decisions. That's where they just read the record, make a decision, not have a hearing. Attorneys can request them, but when we request them, usually they're shot down because the judge will say, no, I want to have an in-person hearing, because the judges know that them being a regional judge, they're at the Orlando office, they could potentially get a notification from the SSA where they say, well, statistically, this many OTRs are done, and because this many OTRs are done, we feel that you could be doing this as part of a national hearing center where everybody's in Ohio or Chicago or this or that, whatever. The judges are worried about that. Biden's saying, nope, we're keeping the regional offices. All right, so there's a lot more to this. I gave you a smidgen of what's going to happen. I'm going to do a longer video. It's 2 a.m. here. I'm super tired, but I will give you a longer video that goes through the entire workup. Also, what I'd like to do, create an Excel sheet with, what's being done on one of these things, and then give you guys periodic updates. Also, there's about 30 things that he should be doing that is consistent and linear with what he's presented here. And I got to be honest, there's a lot of things I don't like that Biden's doing. Okay, there's a lot of things that I don't like that he's already done, and he hasn't been in office that long. But he's right on track with this. He's right on track. I actually read this and was angry with myself at how angry I was at him for being on track. So much so, what happened then, I had to have a little sit down with myself, get a little pillow, hold it, sit on the couch. What I realized was, you know what? I'm going to make a list of all the other things he can do. I'll send him the list. Who is better situated to do that, right? The guy who makes all the videos online about, how this works, what you do with that. The guy who goes to a bunch of hearings, the guy who represents a bunch of clients. Who is better situated than me? I had to sit back and say, okay, maybe we should help him out. Maybe we should figure out the other things that are consistent and linear with these objectives. Give him some bullet points of what to shoot for, what to put in the statute. Something to consider. Anyway, guys, my name is Attorney Walter, if not the third. I'm losing my voice at this point. I'm going to go to bed and wake up super early because that's what owning a law firm is like. I hope you have a wonderful night. Please stay safe. Please be healthy. Bottom line is this. If you want the most up-to-date information, you want a custom video made about a topic that you like, you just want to catch up with me, shoot me an email, give me a call. We'll go from there. I go live every Thursday, 8 to 10. YouTube, Eastern Standard Time. I help anybody that wants to call in or write comments. You have weird questions, you want answers about your particular claim, you want to run hearing questions, 8 to 10 Thursday. That's my donation to the general public. You have any questions, usually people from Texas and California call. I don't know why it's those two states, but bottom line is, if you have any questions, make sure you give me a call. Also, please like, subscribe, but the big thing here is I would more appreciate you leaving 5 stars, like on Avo. If you could leave 5 stars on Avo, Walter or not. Google, Disability Resolution, Better Business Bureau, Disability Resolution. If you could do that, it would really help me succeed with essentially basically competing against those mega big box firms, which they have massive, massive advertising budgets. So I would appreciate that. Have a wonderful night. We'll go from there. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.